By the time Caleb Whitmore crossed the Red Hollow Square, half the town had already decided whom he meant to marry. Vivian Hale stood beneath the harvest bunting in a wine-red dress, smiling as if the answer were hers by right. Her father had ordered champagne from Cheyenne. Even the minister had remained near the bandstand. Then Caleb walked past Vivian. He crossed the packed dirt until he stopped before the woman standing alone beside a freight wagon. Elias Cole. The sister respectable families rarely invited to supper. Her gloved fingers tightened around a small carpet bag. She was leaving Red Hollow at sunrise. "Caleb," she whispered, "everyone is watching. Let them." Then the richest rancher in the county put one hand at the back of her neck and kissed a woman the town had spent years calling a thief sweetheart. A glass shattered behind them. Vivian went white. And Eliza, who had learned never to mistake kindness for safety, forgot for one dangerous second that she had already promised herself she would leave him. 3 months earlier, Caleb Whitmore had known Eliza only as Vivian's quiet sister. Caleb was 36, unmarried, owner of Whitmore Ranch, and wealthy enough that every mother with an adult daughter noticed when he entered a room. Vivian was polished and certain. Eliza was the name people lowered their voices to say. The change began on a rain-dark road 5 miles south of town. A summer storm rolled down from the mountains. Lightning cracked over the ridge. His gelding shied, struck loose stone, and went down hard. Caleb hit the ground with his arm beneath him. When he stood, blood had soaked one sleeve, and the gelding was favoring its front leg. A small covered wagon emerged through the rain and stopped. Elias Hale climbed down. "You're hurt." "I've had better afternoons." She crouched near the horse first. Eliza ran careful fingers down the gelding's leg. "No break that I can feel. He's cut above the fetlock." Only then did she inspect Caleb's arm. "You need stitching." "I need my horse standing." "He needs both of us to stop pretending you can solve everything in the order you prefer." Caleb stared at her. "You always talk to injured men that way." "Only stubborn ones." Together, they calmed the gelding enough to lead behind the wagon. Eliza helped Caleb onto the seat and took the reins. After a mile, he said, "You're Vivian Hale's sister." Her mouth bent in a humorless half-smile. "Around here, that's usually the nicest thing people call me." He looked at her then, because she said it without asking for pity. Her house stood beyond the south edge of town. Inside were a wood stove, a sewing machine, shelves of books, and 2 chairs at the kitchen table. One held her late mother's folded shawl. She washed the cut of his arm and threaded a needle. "For your teeth, if you need it." "I won't." "Of course not." Her hands were steady. She never mentioned his money or Vivian. When she finished, Caleb flexed his fingers. "You've done this before." "My mother taught me enough practical medicine to keep foolish people alive until a doctor could be found." "Am I the foolish person?" "You rode into a mountain storm." "I was trying to beat it." "And how did that contest end?" He laughed. Eliza looked startled by the laughter. For the first time, Caleb saw what gossip had hidden. Not a disgraced woman, but a sharp one, capable, guarded, tired in a way that had nothing to do with work. A knock sounded. Eliza opened the door to Mr. Pritchard, a merchant holding a mended vest. When he saw Caleb at the table with his sleeve rolled up, his eyebrows rose. "I didn't realize you had company." He was injured on the South Road. Pritchard's eyes moved from the bloody cloth to Caleb. "Well, Vivian will be interested to hear her sister played nurse to you." Eliza became very still. Caleb heard the insult beneath the polite words. Eliza handed Pritchard the vest. "Your repair is finished. 20 cents. He gave her a quarter. "Keep the difference." "I don't accept charity." "Then take your change." He did. After he left, Caleb asked, Does everyone speak to you like that? Eliza cleaned the needle. Only the ones try and be civil. He wanted to ask more. She gave him no opening. By dusk, the rain had weakened. Caleb insisted on walking his gelding back toward Whitmore Ranch. At the door, he said, I owe you. You can repay me by not tearing the stitches. I meant money. I know. Her tone cool enough to tell him he had stepped on an old bruise he could not see. Caleb lowered his hand. Then thank you, Miss Hale. That surprised her. You're welcome, Mr. Whitmore. He walked away, certain the conversation was unfinished. 3 days later, he rode into Red Hollow carrying a perfectly sound coat. Eliza was bent over her sewing table when the bell above the shop door rang. She looked up, saw him, then the coat. What happened to it? That's what I came to find out. She checked the sleeves, seams, and lining. Finally, she looked at him. There's nothing wrong with this coat. Caleb rested one hand on the counter. Maybe I want an excuse. For one heartbeat, Eliza forgot to guard her face. She smiled. Then the smile vanished, because across the street Vivian Hale had just stepped out of the mercantile and seen Caleb standing inside her sister's shop. What neither sister knew was that the coat was not the only reason Caleb had come. That morning, his ranch bookkeeper had shown him a 4-year-old freight ledger carrying Thomas Reed's name beside a signature that looked like Eliza's. But the date beside it made one thing impossible. The story Red Hollow had believed about her for years could not be entirely true. Tex. The ledger bothered Caleb all the way back to Whitmore Ranch. Thomas Reed had supposedly stolen from Red Hollow 4 years earlier, using Eliza's name to reach merchants' accounts. Everyone repeated that story as fact, but the freight entry Caleb had seen carried a date that did not fit. A signature could be copied. A town certainty was harder to explain. The next morning, Caleb asked his bookkeeper, Amos Bell, to find every Whitmore record bearing Reed's name. Quietly, Amos studied him over his spectacles. This about Miss Hale? It's about a false ledger entry. That wasn't what I asked. Caleb gave him a look. Amos smiled and returned to his books. 2 days later, Caleb brought Eliza another garment. This time it actually needed work. She held up the torn shirt. Progress. I'm learning. One of your hands catch on nail? He has 6 shirts. Her mouth twitched. Caleb leaned against the counter. I also need curtains for the west rooms. You own one of the largest ranches in Wyoming, and have survived this long without curtains? Apparently. Tragic. Come out tomorrow and measure the windows. Her amusement disappeared. People already talk. People talk when the wind changes. You can afford not to care. That stopped him. Eliza folded the shirt. A rich man can be called eccentric and stay respectable. A woman with my history can be called improper once and lose another customer. Caleb had meant a simple invitation. She had shown him the hidden cost. Then come for business. Amos will record the order. Mrs. Harrell will be at the house, and you can ride in the supply wagon. She searched his face for pity and found none. All right. Whitmore Ranch spread beneath a hard blue sky. Ranch correspondents covered one end of the dining table. 2 coffee cups sat near Caleb's place. You expect company? She asked. No. Then why 2 cups? My mother used to sit there while she worked through the household accounts. I never stopped setting out the second one. Eliza touched the empty chair. My mother kept a chair by my stove. I still haven't moved it. Their eyes met, and neither made a joke. She measured the windows, asking which rooms took the strongest sun and which leaked winter drafts. You plan curtains like fortifications, Caleb said. Good cloth costs money. If it looks pretty and fails its purpose, you pay twice. She named a price lower than he expected. That can include your labor. It does. No. Her face cooled. I don't need charity. I'm not offering it. Show me how you price the work. Eliza listed fabric, thread, travel, finishing, and labor. You forgot delivery. I can bring them when I come to town. That is delivery. You enjoy arguing. Only when I'm right. She laughed before she could stop herself. Caleb added the delivery charge. Eliza did not erase it. Over the next 3 weeks, he needed fewer excuses to see her. She came twice for fittings. He stopped at the sewing shop for coffee often enough that she began setting out a second cup before he arrived. Their conversations shifted from work to books, horses, and Red Hollow's expectations. Vivian tells everyone you prefer roses. Eliza said one afternoon, I don't. She says you do. I prefer horses that don't bite and coffee strong enough to stand a spoon in. That would make a disappointing courtship announcement. Caleb watched her hide a smile. Did I ever court your sister? The needle in her hand stopped. No. Did I ask her to imply otherwise? No. Then why do you act as though I owe her something? Eliza resumed stitching. Because Red Hollow believes you do. I asked what you believe. She did not answer. That evening, Amos brought Caleb old records. They found 3 more irregularities. Reed had used Eliza's signature on freight receipts, but the handwriting changed from page to page. One transaction had been witnessed by a cattle buyer named Samuel Pike, now believed to work near Laramie. Find him, Caleb said. Amos nodded. You telling Miss Hale? When I have facts. Yet, Caleb wanted more than facts. He wanted to return something Red Hollow had taken from her. A week later, Eliza gave him something first. A late summer windstorm tore shingles from a storage shed. Every available hand rushed to move feed, tools, and records into shelter. Eliza had arrived with the finished curtains. She could have left. Instead, she removed her gloves. Where do you need me? Caleb glanced at the clouds. You'll ruin your dress. I own a sewing shop. He pointed toward the ledgers. Save the papers. Eliza worked without fuss, separating wet sheets, organizing invoices, and laying damp pages near the stove. Within an hour, she noticed 2 bills marked unpaid had been duplicated. Amos checked her figures. She just saved us $39. Caleb watched his bookkeeper look at Eliza differently, not as Vivian Hale's disgraced sister, as someone whose judgment mattered. By dusk, the storm passed. Caleb found Eliza in the dining room, copying a blurred invoice before the ink disappeared. You missed supper. So did you. He set a plate beside her. Mrs. Harrow threatened me if I let you leave hungry. Then I'd better protect you. He poured coffee into the 2 cups. This time, when he placed one before her, neither mentioned his mother. Eliza wrapped both hands around it. You trust me with your ranch books now? I trust what I've seen. Her expression changed. What is it? He asked. She looked down. People in this town decided what they believed about me before anyone asked what they had actually seen. I'm asking. Before she answered, hoofbeats sounded outside. Amos entered with a dust-covered envelope. Messenger from Laramie. Caleb broke the seal. Samuel Pike had been found. According to his statement, he remembered Thomas Reed clearly. He also remembered the woman whose name Reed had used. She had never been present at any of the transactions. Across the table, Eliza saw his face change. What happened? He folded the letter slowly. For the first time, keeping the investigation from her no longer felt like caution. It felt like a secret. Tex. Caleb did not tell her that night. That became his first real mistake. He told himself Samuel Pike's letter was only one man's memory, and he needed stronger proof before giving Eliza hope. Caleb trusted evidence more easily than people, so he folded the letter into his desk. The next morning they rode toward Red Hollow. Halfway there, Caleb stopped beside a meadow of late wildflowers. "My mother planted some of these," he said. Eliza dismounted. "All of them." She started with a handful, said the wind would do the rest. "People look at Whitmore Ranch and see land, cattle, money," Caleb said. "They don't see the dry years or the nights I wondered if I'd lose what my parents left me. You saved it. I controlled it. That isn't the same thing." He frowned. "You can save a ranch by controlling what you can," she said. "You can't live that way with people." Caleb almost smiled. "You make a habit of telling me what I don't want to hear. You keep coming back." "Yes." The word changed the air. Eliza looked toward the creek. "Why?" "Because you look at me and ask if I'm tired." She met his eyes. "Are you?" "Yes." Her hand touched the sleeve over the scar she had stitched. Caleb raised his hand to her cheek. She did not pull away. Then she whispered, "Not yet." "Because of Vivian?" "Because of everyone. Men like you survive gossip. Women like me become it. You think I can't stand beside you? I think you haven't had to pay for it yet." That answer followed him home. Over the next weeks, routines formed without permission. On Tuesdays, Caleb brought coffee to the sewing shop. On Thursdays, Eliza rode to Whitmore Ranch to finish the curtains and help Amos with old records. She learned Caleb disliked sugar in coffee, but always ate the burnt edge of cornbread, so no one else had to. He learned she reread the same book of poems when worried. One afternoon, he handed her a small brass key. "What is this?" "The side door to the ranch office." Her eyes widened. "That room holds deeds and contracts." "I know." "You know what people said? I helped Thomas steal. I know what I've seen you do." For 4 years, people had watched Eliza's hands as though expecting something to disappear. Caleb had just trusted those hands with the most valuable papers he owned. She closed her fingers around the key. That evening, while comparing freight entries, she found the name. Thomas Reed. "Why are these here?" Caleb looked up. This time he did not hide the truth. "I've been looking into what happened 4 years ago." Her chair scraped back. "You investigated me?" "The story?" "Without telling me." "I wanted fact before I gave you hope." Hurt sharpened her face. "You don't get to decide when I'm allowed hope. I was trying to protect you." "From disappointment? That was mine to risk." She left. For 3 days, Caleb did not see her. The second coffee cup sat unused. On the 4th morning, he rode to town with no coat, no torn shirt, no excuse. "I was wrong," he said. No defense followed. He handed her Samuel Pike's letter. "I should have shown you immediately." She read it. Her hands began to shake. "He remembers Thomas." "Yes." "He says I was never there." "Yes." Eliza lowered herself into a chair. "For years I thought maybe I missed something. Everyone was so certain I started wondering whether I deserved what happened." Caleb crouched beside her. They were certain because certainty was easier than admitting they judged you without proof. Her eyes filled. "Vivian knew I tried to warn Father. She knew Thomas had access to my correspondence." Caleb went still. "She knew." "Not everything. Enough." Clearing Eliza's name could now expose that the Hale family had protected its reputation by letting one daughter carry the shame. "What happens now?" she asked. "We find proof." "We?" "If you still want me involved." Eliza set the brass key on the counter. Caleb thought she was returning it. Instead, she pushed it toward him. "Give it to me again without deciding for me." He understood. Caleb picked up the key and laid it in her palm. "Eliza Hale, will you help me find the truth?" Her fingers closed over his. "Yes." From then on, they worked as partners. Eliza remembered Thomas keeping correspondence in a rented cupboard behind the old feed office. With the owner's permission, they searched it. Most papers were worthless. Then Eliza found invoices in Thomas's handwriting. One requested payment through an account Eliza had supposedly authorized 3 days later. "I was in Casper that week," she said. "Can you prove it?" Her head lifted. "I still have the fabric receipt." At her house, she pulled a faded receipt from a box beneath the sewing table. It carried the date, merchant's name, and her witness signature in Casper. Caleb placed it beside Thomas's invoice. The two papers could not both be true. Eliza stared at them. For the first time in 4 years, vindication was something she could hold. She laughed once, then tears came. Caleb reached for her. This time she did not step away. She rested her forehead against his chest. His arms closed around her carefully. When she looked up, they were too close for pretending. Caleb bent toward her. A knock struck the shop door. They separated as Amos entered with a county notice. "I thought you'd want this immediately." Caleb read it twice. The Reed fraud had touched more than merchant savings. One forged obligation had been attached to land bordering Whitmore Ranch. Land containing the creek access his cattle depended on. If the wrong document was accepted as genuine, Caleb could lose control of that water before winter. Eliza saw her name on the copy. "This is what I meant," she whispered. "Standing beside me as a price now. You could walk away from this," she continued. "Say you were deceived. Protect the ranch. And let them bury you under the same lie again." She said nothing. Caleb took her hand. "You told me not to decide your risks for you." "Yes." "Then don't decide mine." For years, Eliza believed being chosen happened only to women with unstained names. Now the man with the most to lose was asking her to stay. And for the first time, staying frightened her more than running. If you were Eliza, would you stay and fight beside Caleb when clearing your name might cost him the water his ranch depends on? Or would you leave to protect the man you're beginning to love? Tell me your choice in the comments. Text. The county hearing was set for 12 days before the first hard frost. If the disputed Reed document stood, the Eastern Creek crossing could pass to a Denver investment company. Whitmore cattle would still have water, but only by a northern route too dangerous once snow covered the slope. The lie around Eliza now threatened more than her name. It threatened Caleb's ranch. And Caleb reacted the way he always had when frightened. He took control. He sent Amos to Cheyenne for records, hired a lawyer, and quietly ordered Eliza's name kept off new correspondence until the hearing. "You hid me," she said when she learned. "I kept your name off papers they could twist against us. You decided my name was dangerous again. That is what I said. It's what you did." Caleb's old instinct rose. Solve first, explain later. "I'm trying to save the ranch. And I'm trying to save my right to stand in the room while people decide what my life means." For several days they worked beside one another with a new distance. The 2 coffee cups still appeared each morning. Sometimes one went cold. Then Vivian began talking. She did not invent a new crime. She merely polished the old one. Why had Caleb begun investigating only after becoming close to Eliza? Why was Eliza handling Whitmore records? By Monday, questions had become answers in other people's mouths. A cattle buyer warned Caleb that lenders might question his judgment if the water claim failed. Eliza heard enough to understand the ranch could need credit. "You should have told me." I wasn't hiding it. She looked at him. Another secret, justified as protection. That afternoon, Samuel Pike arrived from Laramie before the county clerk. He identified Thomas Reed as the man who had presented Eliza's supposed authorization years before. Eliza Hale wasn't there, Pike said. Never saw her once. It should have been their victory. Then the opposing lawyer produced a second paper, a handwritten authorization, signed with Eliza's name, witnessed by Arthur Hale, her father. That isn't my signature, Eliza said. Caleb believed her instantly, but Arthur's witness line was genuine. Confronted in the county office, Arthur stared at the floor. Thomas said you authorized it. He said the Hale name would be dragged through court. You swore you watched me sign, Eliza said. Vivian had prospects. I thought one scandal was enough. Eliza's voice went quiet. So you chose which daughter carried it. Vivian stood near the door. Father, tell you didn't know. Arthur said nothing. That silence revealed enough. Vivian had known he signed something false. Perhaps not everything. Enough. Outside, snow showed white along the mountains. The safe options were disappearing. Caleb could buy creek access at a ruinous price, risk his lenders by fighting, or prove Arthur lied and drag Eliza through another public scandal. That night, Caleb chose for both of them. Without telling Eliza, he ordered his lawyer to prepare an affidavit accusing Arthur Hale of knowingly supporting Reed's fraud. It could save the water claim and destroy what remained of Eliza's family. Caleb meant to tell her after the papers were ready. She found them first. The brass key he had given her opened the office. The key that once meant trust now proved Caleb still believed the final decision belonged to him. He entered and found the affidavit in her hands. You were filing this tomorrow. Yes. Without telling me. I needed something strong enough to break their claim and destroy my father publicly. He signed a false statement. I know what he did. Then you know we may have no other choice. Her eyes shone. You always have a choice about whether you treat me as a partner. If I asked, you might have told me no. Yes. And then we could lose the ranch. That is what asking means, Caleb. Sometimes the other person gets to say no. He stared at her. I can't gamble the ranch on feelings. The words came out harder than he intended. Eliza went still. I see. That isn't what I meant. It is. She set it on the desk. I was good enough when I found false entries. Good enough when I made your account stronger. Good enough to sit at your table. Eliza. But when trusting me became expensive, I became a risk you had to manage. He had no answer that did not prove her point. She removed the brass key and set it beside the affidavit. I won't make you choose between your ranch and me. That isn't what I want. I know. Her voice broke. That's what makes it worse. She left Whitmore Ranch before sunrise. Caleb did not stop her. Every instinct told him to ride after the wagon. Instead, he remembered her words. Sometimes the other person gets to say no. At breakfast, Mrs. Harrow set out 2 coffee cups from habit. Caleb watched the second go cold. Now he understood the difference between silence and absence. In Red Hollow, Eliza packed her sewing tools, books, dresses, and her mother's things. Vivian found her tying a carpet bag. You're leaving? Tomorrow after the festival. So Caleb finally understood. Eliza looked at her sister. No, I did. You always wanted what was mine. For years, Eliza would have swallowed it. Caleb was never yours, Vivian. Vivian's face hardened. Do you truly think a Whitmore would marry the woman everyone believes helped a thief? Eliza tightened the knot. I think he may love me, but love that cannot trust me when trust becomes costly is not enough. That evening, Caleb came to the shop. He saw the pack crates. Where are you going? Somewhere your name won't have to stand beside mine. And who asked you to protect my name? No one. Then stay. I can't. Eliza, I love you. Caleb stopped. I love you enough to want your ranch safe. I love you enough not to accept being managed. Then maybe I love you enough not to let you leave. Her sad smile broke something in him. You don't get to decide that either. The answer landed where his pride was weakest. Love did not give him authority over her choice. It demanded that he respect it. Caleb stepped back. What would make you stay? Nothing you can promise tonight. He nodded and left. Before sunrise, his lawyer arrived with worse news. The circuit judge was leaving for Cheyenne. Final arguments would now be heard during Red Hollow's Harvest Festival the following evening. Arthur Hale had withdrawn support for the investment company's claim, but refused to testify publicly against Thomas Reed. Without Arthur, Eliza's disputed signature still cast doubt over Caleb's water rights. Caleb had one day. Eliza planned to leave the morning after the festival. For once, tightening his grip could save nothing. If he wanted the ranch, Eliza's name, and any chance of becoming the man she could trust, he would have to do what control had never taught him. He would have to put the truth in other people's hands, and accept what it might cost him. Text. The Harvest Festival filled Red Hollow with music, but Caleb heard little of it. In the county hall, his lawyer tapped Arthur Hale's affidavit. File this, and the investment claim collapses. Through the window, Vivian stood beneath the bunting. At the edge of the square, Eliza waited beside a freight wagon, her carpetbag near her feet. She was leaving at sunrise. Caleb folded it. No. You may lose the creek. I know. Then what are we presenting? The truth we can prove. The hearing moved outside because half the town had gathered. The investment company insisted Thomas Reed had secured a valid obligation using Eliza's authorization. Eliza did not lower her head. Caleb submitted Pike's sworn statement, the Whitmore ledgers, Reed's invoices, and Eliza's dated receipt from Casper. One paper placed her in Red Hollow. The receipt placed her in Casper the same day. Pike testified, I dealt with Reed 3 times. Miss Hale wasn't with him. Never saw her authorize a thing. Still, the forged document remained. Arthur Hale stood near Vivian, gray-faced. Caleb could have destroyed him with the affidavit in his coat. Instead, he faced Eliza. For 4 years, this town treated suspicion as proof. When this claim threatened my ranch, I prepared a course of action without asking whether you were willing to pay its cost. He removed the brass key she had left on his desk. I gave you this because I trusted you. Then, when trust became expensive, I acted as though the final choice was mine. He set the key on the clerk's table. I was wrong. His lawyer whispered, Caleb? Caleb faced the clerk. I will not use Arthur Hale's affidavit unless Miss Hale chooses to submit it. Without it, he might lose the creek. Eliza stared at him. He had finally left a decision in her hands when doing so could truly cost him. Arthur stepped forward. No more. Vivian caught his sleeve. I signed the witness line, Arthur said. I never saw Eliza sign that authorization. Thomas told me she had. He said challenging him would drag the Hale name through every newspaper between here and Cheyenne. Eliza's face showed no triumph. You chose a family name over me. Arthur lowered his eyes. Yes. Vivian whispered, You don't have to say this. Arthur looked at her. You knew I hadn't seen Eliza sign. Vivian went pale. I knew you had doubts. And you let people blame her. I was afraid, Vivian said. If the scandal spread, everything our family had worked for. She stopped. Elias understood. Vivian had valued her own future more than her sister's truth. With Arthur's testimony, Pike's statement, and the dated records, the clerk rejected the disputed obligation and confirmed Whitmore's water rights. Amos struck Caleb between the shoulders. You still have your creek. Caleb looked only at Eliza. Arthur approached her. I don't expect forgiveness. Good. He flinched. Maybe someday, Eliza said, but it won't make those years disappear. Arthur nodded and stepped away. Mr. Pritchard removed his hat. Miss Hale, I owe you an apology. Eliza looked at the people who had whispered after she left rooms. You owe me better behavior. Start there. Yes, ma'am. It was respect, not pity. Music returned. Then someone called Caleb's name. Every head turned toward Vivian. Rumor had promised the richest rancher in Red Hollow would propose to her tonight. Caleb stepped from the platform. He walked toward Vivian. Eliza's breath caught. Then Caleb passed her sister without stopping. He crossed the square and stopped before Eliza. Her fingers tightened around the carpet bag. Caleb, everyone is watching. Good. They spent years deciding who you are, he said. It's time they see who I chose. Her eyes wet. Are you choosing me or proving something to them? You. That answer belonged only to her. He touched her cheek and waited. Eliza closed the final inch herself. Caleb kissed her. Not to rescue her reputation or punish Vivian. He kissed her because she had become the person he wanted beside him when choices were hard. When they parted, the square was silent. Eliza laughed softly. You've shocked the entire town. They'll recover. He reached inside his coat. She narrowed her eyes. Caleb Whitmore, if you make another decision without asking me. I learned something. That made her smile. He did not kneel. Do you want to stay? With you? With me? At Whitmore Ranch, in town, wherever we build this. Not because your father approves. Not because they change their minds. Because you choose it. Eliza looked toward the wagon. For years, leaving had been the only choice entirely hers. Now staying could be hers too. Yes. Only then did Caleb kneel. He took out his mother's small ring. Eliza Hale, will you make Whitmore Ranch feel like home again? She laughed through tears. Yes. Months later, they married at Whitmore Ranch among adult friends, ranch hands, and trusted neighbors. Eliza reopened her sewing shop. Caleb offered to build a larger workroom beside it. This time he asked first. She accepted. The room gave adult women short on money a place to earn wages through sewing and mending. Arthur visited cautiously. Vivian left Red Hollow for a time, but before going, she entered Eliza's shop. I don't know how to fix what I did. You can't. Vivian swallowed. But you could become someone who wouldn't do it again. It was not reconciliation. It was a door left unlocked. A year after the festival, sunset spread gold across Whitmore Ranch. Caleb sat on the porch with a ledger on his knee. Eliza came outside carrying 2 cups of coffee and took the chair beside him. The brass key hung from her work apron. Her mother's old chair stood near the west window, no longer a monument to loneliness, but part of an ordinary life. Eliza leaned against Caleb. You know, that kiss nearly stopped Red Hollow's heart. Worth it. Would you do it again? Every time. She kissed him before he could prove it. Beyond the porch waited cattle, winter repairs, spring plans, and ordinary problems. For Caleb, home was no longer land he had managed to keep. For Eliza, it was no longer a place she was permitted to remain. It was the life they had chosen together. If stories about grown-up love, hard-earned trust, and finding home in the American West are the kind you want more of, subscribe to the channel.